Hello everyone, my name is Dwivedi Gopinathan and it's my pleasure to be here for TEDxSBSC. I've been invited to talk about 3D rendering ideas, to talk about actualizing the ideas that change lives. Thank you for having me here. You all must be thinking, why am I here? I did my bachelor's in mathematics and master's in computers, worked for 10 years in a software company which developed the software for telecom sector. That was a perfect, wonderful job. My whole idea of success was very limited at that time. I used to think about climbing the corporate ladders, get promotions, getting a good salary, working on challenging projects and new technology. And all of it was happening. I got married to a great man and then I had a child. When my child turned 2, that is the turning point of my life, because of which I'm here talking to all of my lovely viewers and audience today. My child was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, a disorder which is basically has the deficits in the areas of communication, language, imagination, and having sensory deficits. So my child was having social coordination deficits. He was not showing much interest in playing with other children. His speech was regressing. He was not much interested in interacting with us either. I used to play a lot with him. I used to buy a lot of toys for him, and I used to try to play with him using those toys. I used to create a lot of songs for him. We used to do music together. We used to sing so many rhymes. We used to go to the park to play with other children. Everything we were doing like any other regular family. So when we met so many doctors or clinical psychologists or developmental pediatricians, somewhere that they hinted that his diagnosis could be because of understimulation. Well, that's really not true. That's the first myth which I would like to bust here today, that no, that's not true. Mums being working is never a reason for a child getting any kind of diagnosis for any kind of developmental disability. So as I said, the new kind of life began. I quit my job. I started taking my child to various therapies from one part of the city to the other part of the city, getting so many goals from different therapists for different kind of areas of development. And it was really not easy because after traveling the entire city, traveling for 80 kilometers in the extreme weathers sometimes with such a young child, and then creating the entire setup at home was really very difficult. And then of course so many other challenges which I started facing, and I will come to it in a short while. So first let me talk about my goals. So somewhere down the line I started thinking, what exactly is happening? I was seeing other industries were booming, the software industry, the information technology, the automobile industry, how the apps were getting developed, how things were getting digitized. Everything was booming except for the disability sector. There was a huge gap in other sectors compared to the disability sector. I had been working with so many NGOs, with so many schools earlier also, as just out of my interest, even when I was studying or when I was working, and I had witnessed that how so many organizations and universities are working on restructuring the curriculum and making it fun-based, where the joy of learning was emphasized. But I didn't see any trace of such newer developments happening for our children. And then the third point, the inclusion is just an eyewash. We talk about inclusion, but we don't see any inclusion. I belong to a family of educators, and education really holds a very important meaning for me. But my child was not offered a single seat in such a big country with such a dense population, and where there is a school after every kilometer. So these kind of things they set me thinking, what are we doing? What do we exactly need to do? And that was the beginning of my goal. So when I realigning my goals, there were so many questions needed to be asked. How important were those goals for me? what did I want to achieve with my goal? Was I just trying to achieve success? Was I trying to become famous? Was I trying to earn good amount of money? What exactly I wanted to do? The kind of profession which I was in, that was based on my education. I was entering into a new field, or I decided to enter a new field which I had no idea about. I had no education about it. The only experience I had was having a child with autism. So yeah, I really knew what the challenges were going to be. Did I know my challenges well? Did I do enough work to meet those challenges? Did I put my effort to understand the challenges and to resolve those challenges? These were some of the steps which I needed to ask. Some of the steps I needed to take, and I needed to ask so many questions from me again. Was I ready for it? And then whatever experience I had so far, can I take it forward? Can I use it here? What differences can I make? So I really had to define my goal, what I was actually trying to achieve. And my answer was, I was trying to create services for the families like me whose trajectory or the journey get changed in just one day with the diagnosis. So the definition of my dream was, what difference was I creating for me as well as for others? What is the value of my goal for me and for others? What is the value system I needed to follow and I needed to create? So these were some of the challenges which I had to face to realign to my new goal. But I was very clear. My goal was to make the difference. My goal was to bridge the gap. And how did I achieve it? So first thing which I noticed was lack of understanding of our individuals. Our individuals are known as the individuals with neurodiversity. We are known as neurotypically wired individuals, or we call ourselves as neurotypicals. The whole therapy system, the entire education system is more aligned towards changing the neurodiverse populations, which is so difficult because they are born with certain differences and difficulties. Instead, we, the neurotypical people who have more abilities, more capabilities to cope up, should change ourselves. But that whole talk is entirely missing. And that was my first goal. That we have to create the acceptance for our children, so that whatever they are doing which is socially not recognized should become acceptable. Because for that, it is very important for us also to understand their difficulties. So acceptance leads to understanding. It is very difficult for our community, for the people, for the families to understand the kind of psychological, neurological, biological difficulties our children go through. The neurodiverse population have so much of capacities or potentials which are hidden, but they cannot express because they don't have any channels to do that. And most of our individuals are not even understood and believed. So my third goal was to create belief system, to create the belief in our individuals. And as I mentioned, my fourth goal was to bring play. Play means the joy of learning, teaching through fun, interaction, naturalistic modalities, to help our children to take responsibility for their own growth, to find fun in their own growth. And these were the things which I found missing. So I started an organization called PlayStreet Specially Abled Educare Trust in 2012 when my child was 6 years old, with the motto, accept, understand, play, believe. And ever since the day my organization is created, this is the motto we are working on. As I said, understanding about the challenges. It was all about fighting a system which is working on the modalities or the approaches or the therapy systems which were discovered 40, 50, 60 years ago. We have just gone through a pandemic time and we understand what epidemic is now. Autism is an epidemic. Why? In 1970, one child was diagnosed with autism in 10,000 children. But now that number is 1 in 30. Isn't it alarming? 1 in 30. And that's why we call it an epidemic. And that's the reason a lot of research is going on to understand the autistic brains. And due to these researches, very latest interventions and approaches have come in last 10 years, which are completely changing the way the intervention is given to our children. It is changing from instruction-based or demand-based approaches to more relationship-based approaches. Now we are not treating the behaviors of our children, or I would say the actions or responses of our children as behaviors, and we are not trying to modify them. Rather, we are trying to understand the underlying reason or communication our children is trying to do or trying to make through those behaviors, what we call, or what I call as responses. So there's a huge gap in that, and this is what my organization strives to bring in for our country. Third very important thing is parent empowerment. The biggest goal for me is parent empowerment. Why? As I told you, autism starts with the birth and it lasts till the individual lasts, the last day of the life. And going to a therapy session for say a few hours in a week or a few hours in a month is not going to bring much of the difference until the entire family is equipped to give those interactions, the meaningful interactions to the individual, which helps the child to start decoding the world, to start understanding the complexities of the world and start problem solving. And this is also what we call as a relationship-based model. So our job is not to just keep on teaching them. Our job is to make them understand and start problem solving, get the sense of competence, get the self-confidence. So we have created a school program so that we can work with the child in an integrated way. So as I mentioned, and why school was created, as we know, because our children do not get seats in the mainstream. So I also talked about understanding the challenge as well. Not knowing the current interventions, not knowing the latest research is a huge challenge. And I understood it, that if I really want to align to my goal and the vision I want to achieve, it's very important that I restart my learning. I go back to school, I attend the conferences, I take certifications, I do the courses and learn as much as possible the psychology, the interventions, the human brain, the autistic brain, a typical child development process, how it happens, what affects us, what are the factors from the environment that help the child develop and grow. And without knowing it, we really cannot take it much forward. So empowerment for the teachers, empowerment for the caregivers, for the therapists, for the families is very important. And that's where the change starts. So I would say what I started is a beginning, and there's a long way to go. Long way to go. And the last component, okay, so what is there in store for our individuals? Quality of life, independence, and we have to start talking about it, the inclusion part of it. What we have to offer to them as a community, a gift of friendship, a gift of togetherness. So these are some of the goals which I am trying to work on, and I think because of some of my efforts, I have been awarded some of the awards like Women Icons by Berg Singapore in 2017, Goodwill Ambassador in 2018 for spreading awareness on inclusion, Pioneering Woman Leader from the World Women Leadership Congress in February 2020, and the Iconic Woman Leader Award for Excellence in Leadership in September 2021. Because of having a background in technology, I have tried to integrate the technology and bring the services and create the services which can really be helpful for the individuals, for the therapists, teachers and families as well. PlayTalk is one such communication device which is a comprehensive, alternative and augmentative communication program to help our children to learn language, communication, cognition, and to make it their voice. For the individuals, those who are non-speakers, PlayTalk is an effort for them to have a voice through typing or through text to speech or whatever ways, because the kind of difficulties our individuals are having are very varying, right? There could be fine motor difficulties, not just the speech difficulties. So we definitely need a system which becomes their voice, because they do not have their own voice in any form. The biggest change which we are trying to bring here is bringing the relationship and movement-based models to develop sensory systems, language, cognition, connect, and a sense of competence. Because when an individual, howsoever challenged, has a sense of competence, that is where the success of the society and the community is measured. In the end, the question which I ask myself every day, is it bringing joy? What do I feel every day? Was it all worth it? And my answer is yes. So if you also have any such ideas which can change life of you, of the people you love, and the other people who are in the same circumstances as you, and if you really want to change their lives, do you want to take that first step? If yes, then what are you waiting for? Let me end my conversation with a poem by दुष्यंत कुमार. हो गई है पीर पर्वत से पिघलनी चाहिए, इस हिमालय से कोई गंगा निकलनी चाहिए. आज यह दीवार पर्दों की तरह हिलने लगी, शर्त थी लेकिन कि ये बुनियाद हिलनी चाहिए. हर सड़क पर, हर गली में, हर नगर, हर गांव में हाथ लहराते हुए हर लाश चलनी चाहिए. सिर्फ हंगामा खड़ा करना मेरा मकसद नहीं, मेरी कोशिश है कि ये सूरत बदलनी चाहिए. मेरे सीने में नहीं तो तेरे सीने में सही, हो कहीं भी आग लेकिन आग जलनी चाहिए. Wishing all my viewers a very good day.